to create a tic-tac-toe game in React, we are going to follow these steps. We are going to start with the first step, step 0, to prepare the environment. What do we need? We need Node higher than 6.9, npm higher than 3, and the npm package create React app. If we don't have create React app, we can install it with npm install -g create React app. And then we have to do is to use this program, create React app, with the application name that we want. We move there and start the default web server. We have this folder structure, and we can inspect the different files, for example, app with the first component, the static files in public, the package.json, and if we modify app.js, we get it automatically reloaded. Let's do it. Let's code. I already have create React app. The extension depends on your operating system. I am in Windows, so it is .cmd, and I say tic-tac-toe. It starts creating the application and installing, as always, React, React DOM, and scripts. It takes several minutes, and we wait for it to finish. When it finishes, create React app tells us that we have these commands, npm start, npm test, npm eject, and so on, to run our application. If we move into the directory, we can start a default development server that will also open the default application at localhost in the port 3000. This is the Welcome to React application. And if we edit this file, let's open our project. Tic-tac-toe, we open it and see the folder structure. If we edit app file, for example, removing this message and adding another message, if we save it, the app is automatically reloaded. So we have everything set up and working. This first step is complete. Let's continue with the second step. Once we have prepared our environment, we have to start coding our first component. But before start, we have to define the application state. And for a tic-tac-toe, what do we need to remember? What is the state of the application? Well, the state, at least in the beginning, only contains the values of the board and the turn. Whose turn is it? In the future, maybe it will grow, and it will contain the number of movements, the winner, and so on. But for now, we only need that data, and we can represent that data differently. We have chosen this way, the turn, and then the values. The values are just hyphen, X, or 0, depending on who clicked on the square. So the app component will have a constructor that will call supper, and then it will set this state. Perfect. Here in the React applications, with this tic-tac-toe, we are going to see how components are composed. So we have to differentiate two types of components: the container components and the presentational components. The presentational components, also called skinny or dump, are those dump components that only receive some data and represent it and returns what has to be rendered on the screen. I mean, they receive the props and return React elements. And the smart components or fat components or container components will have some logic. So our app component is a container component. Later we will add header, square, board, that will be presentational components. Usually presentational components are done as functions, but for simplicity we will also do them as classes. Okay, let's code. Starting from the scaffold React that Create React App gave us, this one, we are going to modify it. We have this code here, so we go to this file app.js and we create a constructor. The constructor receives the props and just calls, as always, shopper props and defines the state. Our state is just a JavaScript object with the turn, that is a constant that I will define now, and values. That is just an array of arrays, where each array has three cells or squares. Simple, simple. Now this is the state. I need to create the two constants. Player x is player 1 x. I will use this string to compose, to remember the turn, and also to compose the header. So player 2, for example, 0. Perfect. Now we have the constructor with the initial state and the two constants. We have to remove the default content that this component renders and return what we want to render. In this case, we want a div, we want a header with the content. What content we want to put here? The turn. Remember the interface? Turn of player 1 or player 2. Let's compose that text, that is turn off plus, where do I get the state? The turn here. This dot state dot turn. So, and how do we introduce this variable into the HTML? Like this, with a JavaScript expression, and we can see that we have that state into my interface. Now we have to be able to render this interface, this data. We have the state that can be hyphens, x, or whatever. For example, this will be a state. 0. Now, how do we do that? Before the return, we will have to iterate this array of arrays. How do we iterate an array in JavaScript? Well, we use the map function. So we are going to compose the board. So the state values, we are going to iterate it. What does the map function receives? Well, it receives a function with row values and row index. We create an arrow function. Perfect. Okay, and inside this we are iterating and we get row values is this array in the first place, and then this one, and then this one. And in the future, if we have more cells, it will get more rows. So now here we have to treat each row how? With another map function, row values dot map, and again it will receive value, the final value, that hyphen x or 0, and column index. And this is another function. Now we have that hyphen, so we can return, span with the value, but not like this, because this is a string, but like a JavaScript expression. So in this map we are getting one row and returning an span and then another span. What do we do with that row? Well, put it inside the board. Return div, and inside the div, the row, as we did with the value. Like this, expression, always, row. So in this map, we have another map inside that returns the values in a span. And I get the values and I put them inside another div that is a row. I don't use class names for now because we are not introducing styles. We will do it in the future. Now what do we have to do here? We have this board variable and we have to introduce it below the header. If we save, we can see now here that we have that information from the state here. If we change the state, of course, it will change and render another turn or another board. This is the first step. We are going to continue with our application.